Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and I don't have a can with me today, but Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's going on? It's King Solomon. We at Jimmy's Jambox. How we doing, Jimmy?
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do? Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's King Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
My real name's Solomon. I'm from Vancouver, Washington, born and raised.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. Shout out Vancouver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest. Gotta love it.
Yes,
Gotta
sir.
love the rain.
And what got you into music initially? What was the start for you?
Yeah, absolutely. What got me into music initially was just I've always been it's been a big influence in my life, and it's been something I've been able to use to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
What got me into it was just mainly growing up with a lot of influence of art within my family.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin, he makes music too.
Gotcha. Is anybody in your immediate household music? Do you your parents or your siblings or anything make music?
Yeah, well, I'm very close with my cousin. He's an artist, and then I've had my grandpa. He was an artist too.
Gotcha.
And a lot of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I mainly started was, being a poet mainly. And
okay, so you did the words first and then the beats later.
yeah, really into the lyrical part.
Gotcha. I dig that.
Yeah.
And then before we get into more of what you do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I'd like to share with everybody on. This first one's one we ask early. It's one we ask often. And it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
I like that question. That's a good one. I think my very first one I bought was probably a Black Eyed Peas album.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh,
yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. But
no, I'm the worst with names, so I never ask that question. I'm like, I hope nobody asks me in return. Yeah, no, I mean, any Black Eyed Peas album was probably a good choice back in the day.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to that was specifically one you wanted to go to? So you saw it was happening, you got the tickets,
Absolutely.
You went to it.
Yeah, I think the first live show I ever went to probably would have to be, I went to go see Snoop Dogg with my dad.
Okay, hell yeah.
Really young.
Hell yeah.
And then I also bought tickets to see Lil Wayne. That was the first one I bought with my own money.
Oh, cool.
And Blink-182. He was opening up for them. So
whoa.
that's one of my favorite shows.
What a great...
I went to.
Yeah.
Yes, that was an amazing experience. Very inspiring.
Oh yeah, I dig that. And then before we officially get into you in the here and now, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
I like that. That is a great question. I do have a defining moment like that. 2019, I was just about to graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a time when I was going through, I get inspired by the lowest lows and the highest highs. And I talk about it in my music. And when I was living with my mom at the time, we were getting evicted. But, even though I was at might have been one of the lowest lows in my life, I was actually making some of the best music. I made a song called Through the Rain. And even though it was maybe, a sadder song, it was one of the most beautiful I'd ever made. And that inspired me to just take off and to keep going and really create music that I resonate with and other people can too. So,
oh yeah, I could dig that.
I've never stopped creating,
Yeah.
always write and I'm always creating new music and new sounds.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Of course.
We are going to get a super easy one out of the way first. How'd you pick the name?
King Solomon. That's a great question. My name's Solomon, obviously.
Yeah. I imagine that makes an easy connection there.
Right. So it was easy to make the correlation. There's a biblical King Solomon. So not so much that I resonate with all the things he did, but as so much the fact that I like the name and just I'm big in working to be the best version of myself. Maybe I'm not there right now, but I feel like that name resonates with me being the best version of myself. I might not be a king, but I could be the king in my story to myself. You know what I mean?
Manifesting, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I dig that. And I mean, it's easy to spell. It's easy to acknowledge. It is cool that you do all the X's for the vowels.
Right.
Very, very modern day approach. I dig that.
Yeah.
But like aesthetically, it does look really, I do this bit where I break down names. So
absolutely. That's a great, no one's ever really asked me about the X's, and that's been something that's been kind of like significant. Like it sticks out in my name.
Yeah.
It's a gift and a curse because sometimes people have to, when they search me up, all the vowel changes.
Yeah.
But it goes with what my brand represents, which is perspectives. You know what I mean? That the X is, everyone has a different perspective. I have a certain meaning behind it. I might not share with it on this interview, but at some point, I'm going to talk about it.
Gotcha.
What it actually means, but it's part of the perspectives.
How do you say it to people? Like when you're telling people to like remember it for later?
I say KXNG.
Okay.
And I say start with that, and then King Solomon, but I say KXNG X's and all the vowels.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I imagine it would have been something like King Solomon X instead of IO. You know what I mean?
Right. Like I kind of go by King, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So you're nicknaming your own name.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I dig that. Hell yeah. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing process a little bit. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. Yeah. How do you go about getting a track started?
That's a great question. I think one of the ways that inspires me most is when I think I talked about this earlier, but when I'm in some of my lowest of the lows or my highest of my highs in life, I've gone through a lot of different trials and tribulations and different experiences. And I think when I feel the most inspired is just when I'm in those crucial moments, even if it is a dark time, I can create some of the most beautiful work. And I found that's when a lot of times it comes, not when I'm forcing the creativity, but I kind of let it flow. I let it come to me, and truly I'm inspired by things in my everyday. So I try to talk about that in my music as much as I can. Gotcha.
And then when it comes to like beat selection, are you making the beats yourself? Are you getting them from other people? Are you going online?
Yeah.
How do you go about curating those?
Yeah, I have some go-to producers I work with. I don't typically make them myself. It's truly an art making beats.
Very much so.
Yeah. And I'm very much a fan of the process and the product. So like I said, I have a few go-to producers I work with.
Okay.
And that's what the main ones I've been working with, a couple for my next project that I've been working on.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as the words go, are you a pen and paper guy? You putting it in your phone? You going off the top?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll usually use my phone notes so I don't forget if I'm driving.
Yeah.
If I need to just jot something down really quick, a couple of lines. But when I'm at home in just like an environment where I'm really comfortable, I'll probably use pen and paper.
Okay.
Where I just like to get the ink down because I think there's something really like, it does something when you write it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so.
It makes it become very real. So
yeah. Well, that, and even like I like the editing process to be done pen to paper.
Right.
It's like the crossing out of a word, having it kind of like exist in a spot that's not on the line.
Right.
The way there's something like it makes the music move a little bit on the page before you make it move off the page.
Very authentic.
Yeah.
Very authentic.
Yeah. Not to say there's anything wrong with the way that anybody does it, as long as if you're getting it out there at the end of the day.
Whatever you're most comfortable with, but I truly do enjoy that process still.
Yeah. See, the irony is the irony is my handwriting is terrible. So, and I do handwrite it, I'm like, all right, now that I've handwritten it, I should probably type this into something more legible for other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like recorded and ready to release or anything like that, but you've gotten it all written. How long does it usually take you to like memorize it enough to feel comfortable enough to perform it?
You know, I usually spend, I won't lie, you know, I'll take some time to re-listen to it because I want to be able to remember my lyrics.
Yeah.
The way I wrote them. And I want to be comfortable, like you said, just performing it. So I like to spend a lot of time in the car, just listening to it, and I'll probably take even a week at the least, you know, just to feel very comfortable. If I'm performing it, perform it.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. I mean, a week is still a pretty quick turnaround.
Right.
So that's not too bad.
Absolutely.
And then let's go ahead and talk about your music a little bit now. And I jumped on Yield Spotify, and you've got music going all the way back to, it looks like 2021 on there. And your early sound was definitely a little more raw. It had a bit of an edge to it, but it still had this like very like musical element to it. But then there was this shift somewhere in like between 22 and 24. So there was a little bit of a gap, and the change in your sound, like the solidity in your sound past that point really comes to life. Like you definitely settle into a much more melodic approach. It's very, like I said, very musical, very wavy. And I mean, your most recent track, I think, is a great example of that. Free My Mind, which just came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago in the time of now. And it's a super solid track. Like the acoustic guitar is a vibe, the beat is tight. And you're just like chilling the whole time. Like your presence on it feels like very like comfortable, very leaned into.
Right.
So I dig the sound that you've got going. But I am curious to know, out of all the music you have available, what are some of your favorite tracks to perform?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think some of my favorite tracks they date back to, like you said, some of my original back in 2021 that released. Ghost has always been one of my favorite, and it's been one that the crowd has loved, but it's also one that I've kind of evolved from at the same time. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like your most current sound anymore.
Right.
But, like, there was clearly something there.
Right.
And it was cool. I was listening to it as the single, and then I listened to it on the EP.
Yeah.
And, like, I already remembered it, which is cool. Like, so, like, having only heard it once before I heard it again, I was like, I know this track.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's definitely got that memorable element to it.
Thank you. Yeah. I think my sound in early when I was doing a lot of performing, it was a lot more. There was. I have a lot of tracks on my YouTube that aren't on all streaming platforms that were my go-to performing, and a lot of them had a more rage element, a lot more upbeat, turned up. Not so much the wavy sound, but more of just like a performance vibes. So
yeah,
I think those were some of my favorite tracks to perform. But as some of my newer tracks, I haven't got the chance to perform most of those yet.
Gotcha.
Free My Mind, I haven't. That's one I haven't performed yet. So
okay, well,
I'm excited to see how that one.
Yeah, very much.
That one goes on stage.
Very much so. Now I want to take a moment. Then I want to zoom out. I want to look at more music as a whole.
Absolutely.
What are you listening to right now? What are you taking in? What are you finding inspiration in at the moment?
That's a great question. You know, lately, I've been trying to evolve my sound. You know, become more diverse, and some of the things I've been listening to for inspiration are things I probably wouldn't normally, and a lot of them being like, I'm trying to think of some of my go-to, a lot more strings, a lot more guitars, you know.
Gotcha. That does seem to be a more recurring recent element.
Yeah, it's something I really enjoy working with and listening to too. I'm a fan of. And basically, I've been incorporating a lot of that in my music, and that's something I've kind of found my pocket in and found my sound. So I've found a lot of inspiration. I still listen to reggae a lot. You know, Nirvana, a lot of melodic. I love the melodic sounds, and more upbeat guitars too. More poppy, more modern too.
Gotcha. Okay, I dig that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then before we move on to the next portion, this next question is probably the densest question in the interview. Of course. But we've talked about, you know, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
You know, music, one thing music gives back to me is really a sense of clarity, because I go into it in the eye of the storm, but it comes out clear skies when it's all said and done. You know, it's like I said, it comes out to be something truly beautiful, and I'm very proud of. So that's one thing it really gives back to me is I might not have all the answers, but it really, when I'm done making that song or working through a song, writing, working through that beat, by the time I come out of it, I feel very clear. So I would just say that some clarity.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Of course.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one is pretty straightforward. If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
That's a great question. I would love to work with Amine.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'd love to work with Amine. I'd love to shoot a video in Portland specifically. You know, really capture that Northwest feel. That real authentic. There's a few artists in the underground scene I'd love to work with. My boy 2 Flights.
No, shout out 2 Flights.
You know, we might have something on the way.
Hell yeah.
You know, there's a few artists I'd love to work with, you know. But
Actually,
that's just to name a few.
I was going to say, that's usually the next question is, who's somebody local that you haven't gotten to connect with yet that you would like to?
Yeah, he's one of them. And I think someone I haven't been able to connect with yet would be, you know, Lord Lawrence is dope.
Oh yeah, shout out Lord Lawrence.
Lord Lawrence is dope. And, you know, there's some amazing artists. There's some amazing talent out there, but those are a couple I really like, and I really love their passion for it as well, their grind.
Hell yeah.
I can see it.
Their sound would definitely be really fitting with yours as well, so that would definitely work out real well.
That, yeah.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense, but if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show. It doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
That's a great question. I probably want to perform somewhere crazy. I want to go out of the country. You know what I mean? I want to perform in like Dubai.
Okay. That's definitely a place to go if you want to get wild.
Right. I want to get wild. I want to perform in Dubai. I want to turn up with them out there, show love to the people outside the U.S., you know, even Australia, you know, somewhere in Asia, but we'll see, you know.
Oh yeah, I dig that.
That'd be an amazing experience.
Yeah. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Michael Jackson.
Okay. See, I get the answer a lot, and I'm always on the fences because, like,
answer.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot, but like every time I get Michael Jackson, I'm always like, because I'm split. I would love music from him now because the world kind of needs his music now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those times where it's like whenever there was a problem of some sort in some way, Michael always had a song for it.
Right.
But also, we've gotten so much music from him.
That's true.
So it's like he's the one person where I'm like him and Prince. Like, of course, I want more music from Prince, but we've got so much.
That's very true.
Yeah.
The only reason I'd say that, and maybe it is a popular answer, but I just think Michael Jackson had a sound, and he had a ton of music. Music we haven't even heard, probably.
I'm sure there's going to be some like, it's been 30 years, here's 2 more albums.
Right, exactly. And there was some type of, in my opinion, there was some type of evolution in his sound. Some type that a lot of artists, that was uncommon. I don't know.
I'd go as far as to say sound evolved because of him.
Absolutely.
I mean, look how popular the SM7B became because he used it for his music. You know what I mean? Like, he influenced decisions in music.
Right. And just beside all the controversy and just anything else, all the music, I think it'd be dope to hear.
Yeah.
Hear what it would sound like today. You know what I mean?
See, that's like
with an evolved sound.
We could always use another Michael Jackson.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
All right, but with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and August?
You know, I got a project I'm working on, Raw Emotion.
Hell yeah.
That'll be out soon. Just stay tuned. I've been dropping singles. I got a single dropping this Friday. I don't know what day this interview will drop, but
this will have come out like right after that.
Okay, yeah. So I'll have a single out by then. It's called Way Up. So tune in. And a lot more visuals, a lot more collaborations, and just a lot more creating, a lot more work coming.
Hell yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to all of that.
Appreciate it.
For this next one, go and look straight at your camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, my name is King Solomon on all platforms. KXNG SXLXMXN. X's instead of the vowels. So King Solomon on all platforms. Stay tuned. I'm on YouTube. Plenty of videos and visuals on there as well. So go check those out. And go follow Jimmy's Jambox.
Hell yeah.
More coming.
And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Shout out to my team. Shout out to Rebel, my cousin, another local artist. Shout out to everyone grinding in with a vision. Continue to be the best version of yourself and continue creating and continue striving for greatness. You got this. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now, with that being said, I've got one last question to go.
Absolutely.
But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Do your thing.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation. But in all of music, what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a bit of a deep cut. It's one you think not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
Obscure in what way?
So it's just like one, like I said, not many people would know. It's like one that's a little bit of a deep cut.
A deep cut. One album I just think people need to know and don't know. Man, that's a good one. How about, I don't know, I really like Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Okay.
And I don't think a lot of people value that album as much.
Fair.
Fair.
I was going to say, I'm sure people know it, but yeah, it's definitely one where it's like you give it the time and it's got more going on.
Just especially, I don't know, maybe I feel like the newer generation just isn't as onto it as much.
That's fair. Reggae kind of has its ebb and flow.
Right.
As far as like the
niche.
Front of it goes. Yeah.
It might be a niche for some people, but I think it could come back around worldwide.
No, very much so.
People could hear that. They could be inspired by that sound too.
Very much so.
Might bring people together.
Hell yeah.
Sound.
Hell yeah. No, definitely a super solid rec.
Right.
All right, but with that being said, we're going to go and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Appreciate you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm King Solomon.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.